What's going on, everyone? It's Adam Ayala, your psychoanalytical relationship specialist. Back again today for the beginning of the podcast. I just want to thank everyone who supports the podcast on Patreon and follows me on iTunes and YouTube. Just thank you again. I'll always appreciate it. And I appreciate your comments. So here today, we're on the website, The Good Men Project. This is a far left-leaning, pro-feminist website made by men for men. They have a lot of good articles here that I'm going to be going through. A lot of articles such as talking about male suicide rate and things like that that aren't talked about, which is in their slogan, the conversations no one else is having. They bring up a lot of good conversations, but it's always okay to go and understand what they're saying and to take apart maybe their motivations, their ideology, and their logic to see what they're saying is true and how true. So this is what we're going to be doing today. So we're looking at an article called A Gentleman's Guide to Rape Culture. So today we're not going to debate if there is or is not a rape culture, what rape cultures mean, anything like that. We're going to take apart what I just said, the ideology and the logic and the motives behind it. So this is what we're doing today. And I'll have another debate. I'm going to bring someone in to talk about rape culture. So if you believe there is or isn't rape culture, contact me. I'll definitely take the other side of the position and we can talk about it. So let's dig into this article. Starts off as, if you are a man, you are part of rape culture. You have no choice in this one. Being a man means you are part of rape culture. So let's keep going with this. And remember, what is the logic? All men are. You are 100% always guilty, right? That's the logic, and that comes from this ideology of there's no separate, there's no individual, there's no such thing as merit, right? Because if all men are, that means you're not an individual and you have no merit to your name. This is anti Martin Luther King Jr., right? You don't want to, he said he didn't want us to discriminate people by the color of their skin, but by the merits of their work, right? So that could be color of their skin, that could be gender, that could be sexuality, right? This is like saying if you are heterosexual, you're a part of negative culture. If you're a homosexual, you're part of negative culture. If you're a woman, you are part of negative culture. This is what this is saying. So if it works for men, it works for every other type of trait that we cannot change. We cannot change our chromosomes. We're not going to change our sexuality. You're not going to change your race. So that's the logic. That's theology. That's the ideology, almost like a theology, but ideology. And this already looks bad. We already know that him starting right here with this, it's bad logic. So we know everything else is built upon this faulty, bad logic that could be instantly taken apart logically, right? But let's keep going through because we want to understand and learn, because there's always going to be something decent within every article to learn, something new, right? You always listen. I know that sounds rough. It sounds rough and has a logical problem. You're not a rapist necessarily. Most men are not rapists, just like most women aren't rapists. It's a very small percentage of males and females of the population that are actually rapists. So you're not rapists. Most likely, vast majority of you are not. But you do perpetuate the attitudes and behaviors commonly referred to as rape culture. So here's your guilt. Let's see what this means. You may be thinking, now hold on, Zeron. Oh, this is the writer. You don't know me, homie. I'll be damned if I'm going to let you say I'm some sort of fan of rape. That's not me, man. That's okay argument, right? We're not a fan of rape. And people use this idea of, look, none of us perpetuate rape. When we're not fan of rape, so we don't cheer for rape. The majority of us, so we're not part of rape culture, right? That's one of those arguments, but we're not getting into that argument necessarily right now. Let's continue. I totally know how you feel. That was pretty much exactly my response when someone told me I was part of rape culture. It sounds horrible, but just imagine moving through the world, always afraid you could be raped. That's even worse. Rape culture sucks for everyone involved. But don't get hung up on the terminology. Why not? I don't like when people tell me don't do this and do that. The word rape culture is meaningful, right? We're gonna get another now I know for sure we're gonna get another podcast about this terminology of rape culture. Don't concentrate on that word that offended you and ignore what they're pointing out. I don't like this. You never trust anyone that says, no, don't look there. Don't look there. Look where I want you to look. No, look everywhere for full understanding. This is bad advice in general for critical thinking. You have to know everything to make critically, like, you have to know everything when you're critically thinking so you can make the most appropriate responses and answers and solutions as possible, right? The words rape culture aren't the problem. No, rape is mostly the problem, right? Rape culture can be part of the problem also. The reality described is the problem. No, yeah, it's the majority of the problem. I would say rape is the majority of the problem. But rape culture, this idea, and now the ideology and logic that pushes it is problematic, just as we saw from the top. So it is a problem. So men are the primary agents and sustainers of rape culture. Let's keep reading. Rape isn't exclusively committed by men. Okay. Women aren't the only victims, so men are also victims. Men rape men. Yes, this is huge in prisons. Women rape men. Yes, this happens a lot. But what makes rape a men's problem, our problem, is the fact that men commit 99% of reported rapes. I don't know if it's 99%, but I know that it's the mass majority. This is a true statistic. What are they doing with this statistic, though, in this sentence? So men are primary agents. Totally true. Men are the majority of the rapists and sustainers of rape culture. So say a sustainer, that means women would also be sustainers of rape culture because women rape men, right? But not the primary sustainers, maybe they'll say. See the problems with this right now? You're ignoring part of the logic to feed your ideology, right? Because everyone's going to say rape is bad and we want to stop it. And hey, look, there's a lot of people who say, look, you rape someone, just get killed. They should be able to kill you, right? I mean, I understand that sentiment. The mass majority of people are not pro-rape. We don't cheer on rape. But let's keep going. How are you part of rape culture? Well, I hate to say it, but it's because you're a man. So we're going to go back to what I said in the beginning of the video. This is, again, an overarching anti-Martin Luther King Jr. idea of that there is no such thing as merit or as you as an individual. You are that group, so you are this way. You know, I'm an American born in America, but you can look at me, I'm not Caucasian. My background or ethnicity is Puerto Rican. So what have I said? How are you part of theft culture, right? Because Hispanics tend to steal more than Caucasians, right? Whatever, we can make something up. How are you part of theft culture? Well, I hate to say it, it's because you're a Puerto Rican, right? What if we saw a conservative site say what if a conservative site said, how are you part of homicide culture? Well, I hate to say it, it's because you're black. That's nonsense, right? If we can't put it in all situations, we shouldn't be using this, and we see the fault in the logic, right? And this is ultimately destructive towards something that's real, which is rape. This doesn't help rape. This is something that really hurts rape, right? That's like calling all Puerto Ricans, we're all crooks, right? Or what? Didn't Donald Trump say this? Like, oh yeah, about Mexicans. I can't quote him right now, but most Mexicans that come over here are criminals, but there's some good ones, right? You're copying exactly what Donald Trump said in logic, just the opposite ideology. He's right, you're left. This is a problem. If the right can't do it, the left can't do it, because it's a real problem which undermines the issue at hand and the reality. It undermines rape. So when I cross up, so here he's talking a lot about what he does when he's around a woman, and that's not very important. You're just saying, like, I'm a guy, so, I have the ability to rape because all men are rapists, but I don't. Just saying how good of a guy he is. So we're going to keep going down here. He's been talking about vulnerability, which is a very good topic. I don't know about you, but I don't spend much of my life feeling vulnerable. And right up here is that he talks about a key factor being vulnerability when it comes to rape, when it comes to crime. And this is vastly true. But he says as a man, he doesn't spend much of his time feeling vulnerable. I've come to learn that women spend most of their social lives with ever-present, unavoidable feelings of being vulnerable. And he says, as modern men, we must seek out danger. We choose adventures and extreme sports in order to feel like we're in jeopardy. So we had to understand ideology. We know what the ideology is. This is a left-leaning ideology, right? 2, it's a groupthink, tribal ideology. All men are perpetrators, all women are victims, right? We understand that, and then we understood the logic. We've talked about the logic, and we're looking a little bit more for motive, which we don't have a good case yet for. But let's say he says that all men now are not vulnerable. Well, this is just not looking at reality. Just about 80% of homicides are towards men, right? About 80% of suicides are committed by men. So as a man, you're more likely to die by homicide, by being murdered, and more likely to commit suicide, right? And these are things that the Good Men Project have pointed out within their own website, and these are serious problems with men. So it ignores reality here. Men should feel very vulnerable. They're more likely to go be murdered when you walk outside than a woman. So this talks about projection. This gentleman is projecting his life experience out into the world and saying, my life experience has to be everyone else's. So the motive is not out of understanding. The motive is about pushing and making people identify with what he projects out. And that's a big problem here when we're thinking about someone who's trying to teach you something or trying to give you their perspective of reality. We can learn their perspective of reality, and we can agree. Everyone agrees, like, yeah, let's get rid of rape and do everything we can about rape. But we can say, look, we're coming across this in the wrong way because we're more allies than enemies here by far and completely. But this is wrong. So modern men, yeah, you should be worried, vastly worried. Okay, and talking about how big he is and all this kind of stuff. And how he has body language when he's trying to be cool around females. So we're going to go to this paragraph right here, right? And he says, you may think that it's unfair that we have to counteract and adjust ourselves for the ill behavior of the other men. You know what? You're right. It is unfair. We can agree on this one, right? It seems unfair, but I think we agree on it for 2 different reasons. Even though they're very close, they overlap, but they're not the same. Is it the fault of women? Question. Or is it the fault of men who act abysmally and make the rest of us look bad? It is the fault. When we're talking about merit, we fault the men who do bad things, just like we fault the women who do bad things. We don't fault all men for what a few men do bad. That's why when one man commits a crime, all men don't go to jail, right? If the issue of fairness bothers you, get mad at the men who make you and your actions appear questionable. And that's a fair argument, right? As humans, we can't help but discriminate, and discrimination is not necessarily an evil thing, but a tool that we use, a biological tool we use for a lot of bad. But we had to learn to discriminate between a dog and a horse, right? At the very basic level. It goes too far later. So here is the paragraph I'm going to end with, and to give you a thought experiment. If you agree or disagree, it kind of doesn't matter, but I'm talking to those who agree with this article at the deepest level. I'm going to read you this paragraph, and then I'm going to read it to you again using different words. Because when it comes to assessing a man, whatever one man is capable of, all women must presume you are capable of that. Unfortunately, that means all men must be judged by their worst example. He says, by our worst example. Okay, one man is guilty, all men are guilty. Let's see this logic can be consistent within the left ideology, right? Because when it comes to assessing a Puerto Rican, whatever one Puerto Rican is capable of, a woman must presume you as a Puerto Rican are capable of that. Unfortunately, that means all Puerto Ricans must be judged by their worst example. It's awful. That's racist, right? Let's keep going with it. We'll give a couple more examples to really drive the point. Because when it comes to accessing African American men, whatever one African American man is capable of, a woman must presume all African American men are capable of it. Unfortunately, that means all African American men must be judged by their worst example. That's racist also, and no one should agree on this. I mean, this is illegal when it comes to hiring practices. You know, when you talk to those recruiters in HR, that's illegal to do that. That would be discrimination, and that is discrimination. That is taking away someone's individuality and the merit of their life for statistic and data, right? This is when we go too far with statistic and data, and this is very dangerous and very damaging, and this is what splits people apart. Let's keep going with it, though. Let's think about it some more. Because when it comes to accessing homosexual men, whatever one homosexual man is capable of, you know, a population must presume all homosexual men are capable of it. Unfortunately, that means all homosexual men must be judged by their worst example. See, that would be sexist. You know, and that's discrimination against someone's sexuality. So if it's racist to Puerto Ricans and African Americans, and it's discrimination against homosexuals, it will be discriminatory against men. That's misandry. And that's something we shouldn't be promoting. We can say, yes, most men are rapists. We understand that. That's not looking at data. But that doesn't mean that all men are rapists and that all men must be judged by the actions of the single person. So this is where I really want to leave off this talk, and tell me, what do you think about it? Am I wrong? Should we just blanket over people? So all African Americans, since they're the highest at something, pull out a statistic. So all African Americans that way, Puerto Ricans, heterosexual, homosexual, Christian, Muslim, anything. Throw whatever word you want in there. Am I wrong by saying we should go after and understand someone's merit? Or should we just blanket people and say, because you are this and something that you do not change and cannot change, you will be judged by that and not by the character or your nature or your traits or your personality or your merits or your work? So leave a comment down below, and we're going to be moving on to the next article here real soon. So I'll catch everyone who's on the podcast here. I'll catch you real soon, and everyone who's watching this on YouTube, it might be already up or it'll be coming out in a couple of days. So thanks for watching. Catch you in a minute.